Yeah, CMM.
All right, nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll do
right when I type
new
in change my
changes
mind.
here. We'll play around with it a little bit.
Yeah. There we go. That's there. Oh my. Oh,
Oh,
already.
excuse
Oh,
me. Get that out of the way right there. Wait.
boy.
Oh God, that's bad. That's tough.
Jeez.
The squeaky one's my favorite there because that's like letting the air out of a balloon.
Oh, I didn't. That one I didn't. I didn't hear that one.
Stinky.
Exits.
We're gonna abuse this already.
What is it? I keep wondering if it's the pale blue eye or a pale blue eye.
The Pale Blue Eye. This was a great suggestion. Really enjoyed this movie.
I am glad to hear that CMM does their exit survey on the pale blue eye. Okay, we are all set on. Come on, Facebook. So I forget. Were you gonna watch this? Was it on your radar already? I feel like it was.
It had popped up. I just saw it featured on, catered to me on my Netflix queue.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Oh, this looks good." Okay, and I like watched the trailer. It was a Christian Bale already in Edgar Allan Poe. Okay, West
Mm-hmm.
Point, 1800s. Like that. That's like all the makings for that has me all over it.
Yeah, there was. So did you? How much research did you do before this? Like about the?
Absolutely zero. In fact, one of my questions, unanswerable questions, could easily be answered, and I have just done zero research on it.
Okay. Let me see. Okay.
But I
Oh,
know this was a book.
yeah,
I
this
know
was
this
a
was a
book.
book, so it's all fictional, is my understanding there.
Okay, so
And some of it
that's
ties in some of his like some of it ties in some of his stuff, like obviously like the stuff with Leah
yeah.
in the
So
poem, like that's the telltale heart, right? And like all
that's
this
where
kind
I
of
was
the line, the pale
confused.
blue eye.
That's what I was more asking you about
Sorry.
because I didn't know if you knew if it was fictional going into it because I didn't know it was like historical fiction. So, but yes, there are like little things that are brought in that are really like Easter eggs, I guess.
It was questioned because obviously like Poe, like we had talked about in the last episode, right? That he was an army cadet at West Point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
So, it's like
yeah.
some of it there. But I just assumed, I'm like, no way. Like we would have known about him solving a murder. Like this would be like
Yes.
so
100%.
crazy if it was true. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But
let's save it for the real stuff because we're not we're live, but we're not live.
yeah, this is only for the people who are watching us.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. I have
But yeah,
tweeted it,
all good stuff
retweeted
here.
it.
So this was a good suggestion.
We're good. I'm
All right,
glad to
let me
hear
just
that. Yeah, I'm very excited to talk about this in detail. When you're ready.
Okay. We'll get started here in 3, 2, 1. And welcome back to another edition of the Change My Mind podcast. Maybe with a new name. I'm Wesley Sykes. Through the other side of the ether is the gas man to my Sir Flatulence. It's Mr. Nicholas J. Esquire. Harder for hire, I gotta say.
I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. You've opened up Pandora's box. I'm so happy. These are great, and we're gonna keep adding more to this. This is awesome. Nice and easy too.
So maybe this is the downfall of the podcast here. A little peek behind the curtain. StreamYard now allows us to have background music, different things. So different music things, not just video as well, which we may incorporate some video moving forward here. But definitely, so a little bit of a soundboard action. So farts galore here, and just to maybe get my opinion on it overall.
Stinky.
That's about that there. So we'll be playing around that this week, and we also have a little bit of rebranding, which we'll get to in a little bit. But my question, this is kind of based off of the review, our first review of the year. Of course, The Pale Blue Eye on Netflix, starring Christian Bale and Harry Melling. But why don't we have more balls in life? And I'm not talking about testicles, but I'm talking about like soirees, galas.
Oh,
Like a ball.
okay. Oh, yes. Okay, that is an interesting tie. Okay, I thought you were just trying to be funny. I had no idea where the hell you were going with this. Yeah, I don't know. Like maybe it's just like not a thing anymore. I mean, that's how they. I mean, let me ask you this: would you rather do that, or would you rather stay in and watch sports, or then if you're going to go out, like go to a bar and watch sports or something like not just sports related, but like go to the movies and other things like that are, I don't know, not
Well,
dancing.
you and I are taken off the market here, so this doesn't necessarily concern us. But if you're a single man or a lady out there, maybe much like they would back in the day, there would be the princess holding the ball to be courted by her future prince. They would come from all over, and there would be this big soiree, and they would try to win the hand of the princess. Now it's just always swiping left and swiping right, couple dick pics, who's your favorite office character, whatever kind of clever, witty line you can come up with to get the attention of the girl who has the attention of everybody, right? On the social media apps there. It's kind of like unbalanced there. But instead of doing that online, why don't we take that back into real life? That's all I'm saying.
I think that's a
Get
fair
dressed
point.
up, maybe learn how to do a waltz or something,
Under that lens, I think that's a pretty good idea. I don't know if I trust people to use it appropriately, but I think it's a really good idea. In theory, at least on paper. Yeah, on paper, it's a good idea. I'll give you that. Yeah, I mean,
I guess
I don't know if it was ever a thing like that though. I mean, obviously, like you said, like from a high like royalty, sure, maybe it was, maybe, but I've never heard of it like in that lens specifically.
on the plebeian level, we should be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that wouldn't. I could get behind that. I mean, obviously, we're taking, like you said, but I'll tell you what. In my single days, I didn't want to have to like use social media or the apps to do it to find like the person. Like, I'm happy that I did it finally. Once I did it, like it boom resolved everything. But
There we go. Yeah,
that's not usually how it works for most people. So it's just like I always wanted to try and go out and do it, and it was just wasn't happening. It was very difficult. Like, yeah, you meet people once in a while, but then you're at a bar, and sometimes people are like, I don't want to meet my future significant other at a bar. I don't care, but like people have like these things, so it's like they only view you in a certain lens. It's odd. So at a ball, it's a lot more elegant.
a lot more elegant. I always enjoyed working in restaurants to meet my ladies of choice, whether that was people that would wait on, or of course my wife, who was a coworker of mine. Always a great option because you're lively, you're moving around, but you're kind of in and out of, but you're kind of close and you can relate to the person, but you can always kind of pop in and out, because you got something to do the whole time. You're kind of you're kind of clicking on all cylinders, or maybe your syntaxes are firing a little bit at a higher rate that time. So maybe you're a little bit more clever, a little bit more cunning, a little bit more courageous. Free C's, that's all important in lovemaking.
Or maybe you're dealing with some dick of a patron who decides to say, yeah, I don't see anything on the menu that I like.
yeah, nothing looks good. Yeah.
I'm all set.
But yeah, so
fucking
I just think let's get some more balls in life here,
Sure, why not? Let's start with, let's get a DSG ball going. Instead of, Mac and Goo has their trivia nights. Dork does their like, once or twice a year live events. We're gonna do the first like Idle Hands ball. That's what we're gonna do. It'll be Billy.
I like that. We could do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Idle Hands ball that even has like a nice ring to it. It could have like a nice double entendre to it. With the sponsor, of course, but the Idle Hands. Everyone's just sitting around.
Yeah, the Idle Hands.
Let's get them all together.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Let's do it.
I'm with you.
Wow.
I'm with you. Let's head over to trending now here with a little bit of a new sounder.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Ooh, look at that. What do you got?
Probably from one of my, maybe favorite mixtape eras in high school there. I say that to the wife all the time. Damn, son, where'd you find this?
I don't know that one. It sounded like it was.
I figured you would. You're a country music guy. You weren't knee deep in the mixtape circuit back in the early to mid 2000s.
No. If anything, I was more listening to rock back then than anything.
Yeah. You seem like a big Creed guy.
Oh wow,
Creed guy.
Okay, cool. I wish I could do the Chime can do that voice.
I like Creed though. I shouldn't make fun. I like Creed.
Is Scott Stapp the singer?
Nickelback.
Yeah, Nickelback.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, because Chime can do this. Like that's
right
like Chime's voice is like it's his Q zone. It's Scott Stapp, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is.
But yeah.
Speaking of Q zone here, I think we found a little bit of a Q zone here in our rebranding. Of course, you might know us and love us as the Change My Mind podcast. However, in the SEO search, we are just getting killed by right-wing media pundit there, slash comedian Steven Crowder, which this podcast was like inadvertently kind of named after. Like, I'm not sure if we ever really explained the Change My Mind podcast, but that was like, he has that famous meme of him sitting in the college campuses with the foldable, collapsible table, with like the whiteboard, with like the blank thing underneath, and it says "Change My Mind." Like,
Yeah.
that was kind of the idea. I never had no idea who that person was.
Right. Knew nothing about that guy.
At the time. And I was like, oh, now when we would go into search on YouTube, and it's like all of his stuff, and he's like huge. I mean, get hundreds of thousands of views. So we're just getting pummeled in like so much content.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
we're
who
like,
knew?
all right,
It's not
this
even.
is not-
It's not even like his
No,
show
no,
name.
you-
Like it's a bit that he does, or I don't even know if he still does it. And it's like, yeah, every time I went to even go search it before when we were going to show YouTube. As much as we're not changing my mind on YouTube anymore, he pops up right away. Like we did too, but like it's always him first. So I was like, oh, hey.
Yeah, so we are pivoting. We're going to try to become professional podcasters in 2023 here, and pivot exclusively to YouTube. We're going to get the YouTube gold plaque. They're going to hit us up with a subscribe number. So we're going to need you to smash that like button on the YouTube. Hit us up at CMM Podcast, CMM space podcast. Make sure you remember that space. It's very important there. That's probably where you're going to be able to find us on Twitter too. We'll get that all cleaned up in a later episode. But you're going to find us exclusively on YouTube here. Of course, we got these great sounders, like this one here.
I won't change my mind because I don't have to, because I'm an American. I won't change my.
Look at that,
right? Rob McElhaney, like just a good reminder of what this podcast is and what it used to be and what it will continue to be. But that's a little bit of a programming note moving forward there. So enough of
before you say that, we do want to clear up that we're still available on all the audio platforms like we always have.
Oh yes.
So just so everybody knows, West is exclusively video, but yes, it is a CMM rebrand across the board. Which I mean, that's how you guys know us, anyways. Who does the full thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nice and easy.
Exactly.
Well said on your part.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for cleaning that up. You're a regular number 4 hitter, regular Manny Ramirez.
Oh, wow. Okay. I don't know if it's a compliment or
minus the estrogen pills. The Last of Us on HBO, Nick. This just released its first episode last night. 90 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. Based off the popular video game. Again, if I'm not mistaken, I'm probably speaking out of pocket here. You got the guy Pedro Pascal lead there. The other girl who I forget her name, but she's very recognizable, playing the co-star. Did you play the game? Have you? Will you? And should you watch this show?
So Pedro Pascal is playing Joel, who is the main character on this, and then the other, I guess, the leading actress or the leading female character, also arguably main character, is Ellie, played by Bella Ramsey. And like Wes said, recognizable. The only thing I recognize her from, but pretty big thing, is Game of Thrones. She's like a Stark cousin, right? She had her own.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, she was the bear queen lady. Yeah,
right. She was a tough bastard in that show, and she is also one in this one. Now, I did not play the video game. I think I've said this before, but I don't know like in how many words. I love playing video games growing up, and I still like video games a lot. But I'll tell you what, like if there's one thing I don't have self-control with, it's video games. Like if I find the right one, I'm screwed. Like Skyrim really opened my eyes up to that because I loved that game. It was Elder Scrolls 5, I think. I played that a ton, and I was like, after that, I was like, all right, you gotta like sports games. I can stop. Like that's eventually you get annoyed with it, but like so no, I've never played this game. I probably won't. I did watch this episode, and Lauren actually watched it with me too. It was so good, and I had high expectations coming in because I'd seen some people reviewed it and they'd seen either most of the season or part of it. And when it comes to like we've talked about it, how like comic book fans can be like real like particular about certain things, and Star Wars fans can complain a ton about stuff. Like we're talking like people who've like live and breathe Star Wars, not like Wes and I were. Like I watch all the shows, but you only watch the movies. There's a difference. Tiers to this, whatever. The video game people can be like the biggest hardos when it comes to it. And hey, that's to each their own. but they were like this. They were tough coming out when the sequel video game came out. They loved it. And then with this, they were tough too. And it seemed like by and large, everybody loved the first episode too. So I think this is much watched television.
All right. Yeah, I've heard. I mean, I know the chat was going off of it on Twitter earlier today, so I'm definitely intrigued. No, I don't know. I know this was like next level storytelling for a video game, but I don't really know what is this like a apocalyptic zombie kind of world? Is that what's kind of going on, like Walking Dead type of situation?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and there's, but you're dealing with. It seems like you're dealing with two very difficult characters, like two difficult individuals to be dealing with, and the nature of the virus, I guess, was not a virus. It's a fungal infection. So it's the nature of that's a little bit different too. So these zombies are actually okay. We've talked about this before, right? I don't think we've ever done a zombies ranking from like movies or whatever, but
no, yeah.
These, after watching that first episode, man, and then also seeing what's up next, these might be the scariest friggin' zombies ever. And I love the 28 days, 28 weeks later zombies, but
right, yeah,
these are like smarter and just as fast. So it's pretty terrifying.
Smart zombies. Don't want that. That's not a good combination.
Never.
Have you paid attention to this Velma storyline that's been going around?
Yeah, like it seems so. Obviously, it seemed initially like, okay, this is like you're trying to be a little bit more forward with it. I guess you're trying to take it and be more inclusive, I guess is the way it is, or you're diversifying the cast and everything.
Stinky.
Which, to me, I don't necessarily like. That's fine. Okay, I'm open to that. But now it seems like it's not for anybody. Like it seems like everybody's pushing back on it. I haven't seen many. I don't think I've seen any positive feedback on this one so far. Have you?
This seems to be unifying in the fact that everybody agrees that this is a shit show.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. Mindy Kaling seems to be pretty likable. Love her from The Office. That's really about all I've seen her in, although she's great in The Night Before too. Also very good. But I don't know. I was looking through it, kind of like she was like the show was trending all weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was maybe like the most watched show in HBO Max history or something like that. Because I thought I saw her tweet something about that. But you look at the replies and like you kind of start scrolling at some of the trolls, and again, it's like woke right wing stuff, and then people like saying that the show's anti-trans too. So like it's getting like hate from like the LGBTQ community, and like so again, like the whole like everyone. This might be the meme that you see online of like the jacked black arm, the jacked white arm coming together, clasping hands, and there's like that's like this show right now, and like in the middle is like the two hands clasping together. This may solve the great culture divide in America right now.
And you look at the cast too for this show. It's like you said, Mindy Kaling, Sam Richardson, which for those who maybe don't recognize the name, that's like the number 2.
Detroiters, Veep.
Yep.
I Think You Should Leave. Yeah.
Yes. Constance Wu plays Daphne, and then Glenn Howerton is Fred Jones. So I just, it's wild. It's wild. It's not wild that this show's not good. Like, hey, that happens, whatever. It's wild how everybody doesn't like this. It's like there's no two ways about it.
So this is an adult animation show, I imagine. I saw a couple of clips. It looked pretty bloody, actually. I saw like a leg getting chopped off in like a school hallway.
Yes. Which, okay.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not for kids then.
No.
It's a Family Guy. It's not supposed to be like kind of like a Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers type thing where it's like everyone's kind of involved.
No, and it seems like I saw someone tweet out, I can't remember who it was, but like it's someone who I definitely like whose opinion on Twitter, like I like I respect like as much as one can with anything on Twitter, right? But
right,
they said how like it's trying to be Harley Quinn and it's not. Maybe I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was some random person. Okay. I don't know, but it's like if that's what you're trying to do, then that's already a problem. Like, don't try and be like something else entirely. Just be what you are. So it's too bad. Like, I'm not saying they couldn't have done something funny with this, but when everybody doesn't like it, I mean, you did something wrong.
Like, I know. It was like what the last few episodes we were talking about how much like new IP had been kind of rocking. and like all the reboots and just kind of retaking new properties, everything. Like the last year, it was kind of like the year of the reboot, and then this one, this IP didn't really work out too well.
It's too bad, but
Another IP a lot of people looking forward to, though, Mandalorian season 3. We're supposed to be getting the trailer as a crow flies a little bit later tonight, 9:45 Eastern, I believe.
Okay.
You're big into this, Nick. So you
Yeah.
tell me what are you waiting for Mando 3?
Well, the big development with Mando is that Grogu has basically, it seems like his Jedi training is in his past. So I'm very excited to see what's going to happen with the pair going forward, because they're reunited again. And it's just having those two together. The show was, I loved the second season, don't get me wrong, but having those two together is just a very interesting dynamic, especially because Mando, again, Pedro Pascal doesn't talk a whole heck of a lot. And then on top of that, too, we have the whole Darksaber saga going on with Bo-Katan. That I'm assuming that's going to be coming to a head in this season. So, and she can get pretty unhinged. I love that character. So I'm, of course, we were introduced to her in the Clone Wars show, but very excited to see where all that goes, more Mando stuff and everything. So all around, and also, too, coming off of Boba Fett, the best Boba Fett episodes. As much as I liked Boba Fett, and maybe I'm a little bit of an apologist for it, as much as I had low expectations going in, like the best episodes of Boba Fett were Mando-centric episodes. So, like, his brand's never been hotter.
All right. Oh, well, that's good to know then. Nice. So high expectations, Mando season 3. I'll stay away, but I'll be watching from afar, seeing how it's received by the Twitter masses there.
Sounds good.
What do we got cooking in the comic book minute today, Nick? What's brewing?
We'll see. Well, so from DC, I think this is going to be the big issue of the week for everybody. Is going to be Nightwing issue 100 from Tom Taylor. Ever since they took over this, they have really been crushing it with this character. And of course, this is a slightly larger issue, ton of variants and everything. And this is another great one, a big step for this character. Expect we'll talk about it on TLDR. And from Image this week, we got Old Dog issue 3. But really, the big thing this week is we got a few trades from books that we've talked about on the show, or featured interviews on the show. So that Texas Blood Volume 3, Doc has talked about that on TLDR. Absolutely loves it. I still have to read this series, but third volume of this collected edition is out this week. Public Domain Volume 1 from Chip Zdarsky. Talked with him about that a little bit a while back on the show. And that's very much like, if you kind of like the comic book industry, but you don't, or you like comics, but you don't necessarily read a ton. I guess you more so like the movies. This would be an interesting experience for you, because it's more about that kind of dynamic. And Chip is someone who, he writes Batman now, has written Daredevil for a while, has some experience with seeing at least the machinations of it. I don't know how much he's had to deal with it firsthand on his own experiences. And then Above Snake from a friend of the show, Above Snakes from friend of the show, Sean Lewis, who of course writes King Spawn and The Scorch, which is a Spawn book. Trade paperback, that's one volume. You guys can pick that one up. As for TLDR, Doc's talking an AWA book this week. I'm talking an Image book this week. You can catch that after you listen to Change My Mind.
All right. Looking forward to that. Good TLDR episode. TLDR has been kicking ass recently, right? You guys had a pretty big interview. I saw I was getting some love there recently.
Yeah, we had was it Axel Alonso, actually the head of AWA. We had him on a little while back. We had him back on to kind of do a larger conversation. There was another thing they wanted to promote, but more about all the books from last year, some stuff from this year. Got a little nugget about a Garth Ennis thing that's going to be coming from him this year, which obviously, for those who aren't familiar or maybe doesn't ring a bell, The Preacher, he's the writer for that series. The Boys, the writer for that series too. So some good stuff come from him. Still writing comics, so love to see that.
All right. Well, yeah, check out the TLDR podcast. And let's now shift gears to our main topic. The Pale Blue Eye exit survey, now streaming on Netflix. Hit us with a synopsis, Nick.
Yes, we got to do a debate soon, because I've had this for a while. Not that I don't want it, but it's makes life tougher for you for sure. A world-weary detective is hired to investigate the murder of a West Point cadet. Stymied by the cadet's code of silence, he enlists one of their own to help him unravel a case. A young man the world would come to know as Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, whoa. This is written and directed by Scott Cooper, based on the book of the same name, The Pale Blue Eye, by Louis Bayard. There we go. starring Christian Bale as Augustus Landor, sometimes referred to as Gus. I like that nickname. Augustus down to Gus. That's good.
Yeah, that is a
Sometimes
good
just
one.
called Landor too.
Landor's a good
Harry
one.
Melling as Edgar Allan Poe, who I thought was fantastic in this. I thought he has a kind of a creepy look about him. He's in a couple other movies that I can't recall at the moment, but he's a kind of a recognizable face.
It's the Dursley kid.
Come again?
The Dursley kid from Harry Potter.
What's that?
Harry Potter.
The Dursley. Oh yeah. Oh, well, we'll get to know that next week. There. Okay, for sure.
That's right. Yeah.
Simon McBurney as Captain Hitchcock. Timothy Spall as Superintendent Thayer. Toby Jones playing another quote unquote good doctor here is Dr. Daniel Marquis. Of course, he was who was he in the MCU, Nick? What German scientist was he there?
Yeah,
right?
He's a German scientist who is this, like the right hand guy for Red Skull. And then in Captain America Winter Soldier, when they go to that bunker, it's his brain or whatever that's in the computer.
Yeah, definitely recognize. He looks like Zoloff. Oh, nice pull. Pull, Nick. That's good. Deep in the recesses. Harry Lottie as Artemis Marquis. We have Fred Hetchinger as Randolph Bollinger, Lucy Boynton as Leah Marquis, and Gillian Anderson as Mrs. Julia Marquis. And then also, who's it? Gene Pepe as Robert Duvall with a special guest performance there. So we'll be talking about him a little bit later as well.
Yes. As for the critics' reception to this received a 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb with a 65-73 Rotten Tomatoes split and a 4.2 out of 5 on Google reviews, with 93% of Google users liking this movie. Also worth noting, too, we don't talk about Metacritic a ton, but this got a 56 on there, which I think is a pretty good rating. Right?
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't know what it means. I threw it on there just because we don't have any box office, where it was a Netflix release. I was looking for a little bit more.
Ask Mac and Go, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. They'll give you the whole breakdown of it. But movierankings.net, that's the Lights Camera Barstool site. They do a lot of ranking stuff too. They didn't have it on there either. They haven't watched it yet. So we'll deal with Metacritic there, but that's a wide array, a cornucopia of reviews for you to choose from.
Sure. Yeah. Well, what do you got for your tweet length review and score?
Yeah, I'm giving this an 83 out of 100, Nick. Equipped with a great setting and 2 strong performances, The Pale Blue Eye is a solid murder mystery that drags at times and teases the audience what I think they really want.
Okay. I was curious where you were going to land from a grading perspective. That's my big thing. Because I thought, okay, well, you know what? Let me get into mine real quick. So I gave this an 85 out of 100. I love the ambiance of this movie. That is a big thing for me. Christian Bale is great, as you mentioned. So is Harry Melling. There were times where it was a bit hard to understand people, and that happens. But if you're trying to not do subtitles, that can be frustrating. And I really didn't want it for this movie, but kind of had to cave. The ending enhanced this for me from a C+, talking like a 79, maybe an 80, but a C+ to a B. Very excited to rewatch this, and we'll get into more of that why.
All right, so we both like this movie. We don't have to ask ourselves that question. It seems both give this a B to a B+ there, depending on your grading scale. What was the most rewatchable scene, Nick?
I mean, I don't think there is a thing that I consider a rewatchable scene. Like maybe when I watch this a second time, and I think that's going to be big for this movie. I see what you have written down, but I don't even look at those and say, yeah, it's rewatchable. Like that's, we talk about action stuff so it's kind of tough.
Yeah, I mean, I think in this sense, I just look at it like, what were my favorite scenes? What was the most memorable one when I think back on this? Just because again, it's not like an action scene or anything, but when Landor is confronting Dr. Marquis, the Toby Jones there, about all of his satanic connections, and him being like the great grandfather of a long lost witch hunter from France. Which goes under, and by the way, this is a full spoiler podcast here.
Yes.
This is a loosely based story. This story came out mid 2000s, late 2010, something like that, 2013, I want to say.
Right.
And it's a historical fiction
Fiction.
story.
Mhm.
That some of it's true, like it takes place in 1830 when Edgar Allan Poe was a West Point cadet, but none of this stuff is true. He wasn't solving murder mysteries
Right.
with a former constable.
The only thing that was really like, even then it's not real like stuff. It's like Easter egg type stuff. Like Edgar Allan Poe did write like a short story on a character named Landor. I think it's like Landor's Cabin, and then obviously the what's his favorite poem with the Nevermore and the Raven, like that was the one he cited. We're talking about Lenore and all that stuff. That's also mentioned
The
in there.
Telltale Heart.
Telltale Heart. Thank you, Jesus. So yeah, there was.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there were some other things that were. Well, it seemed like this whole thing, like he, obviously he has that dream, but it seems like the whole premise of this could have been the inspiration for the Telltale Heart too. So I'm sure there were other Easter eggs that huge, EA Poe junkies probably picked up that Wes and I, would miss.
Yes, but there were a couple moments where I had the Leo DiCaprio meme moment when pointing him from the TV on the couch, like, oh, I got that reference. So that was a couple good cool moments there. But yeah, so I thought when Landor is confronting Dr. Marquis about all the satanic stuff, and when he makes the connection with the painting that he has hanging in the house, and he goes back to Jean Pepe, and he's like, who is this guy? Let me get a picture of him, and it's like the same picture, and he sees this like huge book that's tucked back in the bookcase, and then he presents everything to him, and Dr. Marquis kind of confesses that it's like somehow like not his fault or something. It's like you don't understand.
Yeah.
And they just kind of gloss over all that, which I wish they would have gave more of. But I thought that was very interesting because that was like probably the climax of the movie.
Sure. Yeah. No, definitely the climax of the movie. 100%. Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, like, there's no question. Like that was like you seeing it all kind of come together and stuff. You already knew, but like finding out, like, okay, no, he wasn't just a witch hunter. Like it's something more and everything. And just once you see that logo or the symbol, whatever you call it, it's like, oh shit! Like this is because we'll talk about in a second. Like, there's just so many people that you go through, as I went through, considering like, is this the killer? Is that the killer? Like, who is it throughout the entire thing? So it's the way they brought it together in this portion of the movie was very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and let's get into that right now. I think that's a
Okay.
good spot to do. Yeah, so did they hide the killer well? Obviously, that comes into the twist. That was my other rewatchable scene at the end where the big
Yes.
reveal.
So
But
good.
and again, how many people did you think were the murderer maybe over the course of everything?
So, by the way, I think that the twist reveal at the ending is the most important. Like, it is my favorite one because, like I said, it just enhanced this movie so much more for me.
Sure. Yeah.
And the big thing is like, okay, so again, spoilers and everything. I looked at it and I went back and looked at the cast and everything. I'm pretty sure I had 7 people that I considered for this, like as the killer. I never thought it was Edgar Allan Poe because it's just like it's not him. There's no way this is a
It's
thing,
too
especially
obvious,
because
right?
yeah, and also like I didn't know if it was a historical fiction or not as I was watching it. Like, I didn't know if this was loosely based on a real story or whatever. So it's if I'd known it was historical fiction, maybe. But even then, but still, I was like, no, it's not him. So that helped me out. And then I never thought it was Landor, like it proved to be. And for me, the entire time as I'm watching this, like Laura and I are saying, it's kind of hard to like, it's hard to understand at moments. So you got to put subtitles on. But then you think, like, am I missing something? Because you watch, enough mysteries. We've seen enough over the years. You see breadcrumbs where it's like, okay, it could be this person, it could be that person, and then you kind of start getting your lean. And sometimes you get surprised, okay, but in this, it was like tiny breadcrumb here, tiny breadcrumb there, like barely anything,
Yeah.
nothing really pushed you towards anyone. And even though I considered the girl in some capacity, I considered her brother more than her. I considered her in some capacity. It was still like, like, I don't know. It wasn't really until it happened with her that I was like, okay, all right, it's her. I wasn't like crazy blown away. But when we saw all the Landor stuff, it was like, I was blown away. And I'm really curious if you ever predicted it at all.
No, I didn't. I'm just real happy that they didn't make Edgar Allan Poe the murderer and go into like a far off direction with this. Obviously, I didn't really know about the book. I didn't know about the book previously, so obviously they had more of a framework to work with there. But I'm watching it unfold, and I'm going through the same thing that you were saying. And it's like he's like, I think your murderer is a poet. And then it's like, you know who Edgar Allan Poe is, and I'm like, this cheeky son of a bitch. Like, is he just gonna sit there and like dangle himself in front of the detective the whole time and like until he solves his murderer?
Yeah.
But so I'm glad they didn't do that. But I had no idea that it was Landor. I thought that it was weird that they didn't bring up what happened with his daughter. Right? They mention it. They mention it in passing. Him and Poe. And they're like they drop it completely, and they don't bring it up for the rest of the movie. So you're kind of left behind. So they had to clean that up, that loose end up, in some way. So that was kind of an interesting way to do it too. But other than Artemis Marquis and Dr. Marquis, who was a shady character the whole time, like that was the good doctor just missing shit left and right, the contusion on the back of his head, the note in his hand, like all this stuff, it's like, so he was obviously trying to cover this up and cover his son's tracks.
Yeah, I mean, it proved to be true in the end. I'll tell you what, I considered him, his son, his daughter, and his wife all at points throughout the course of all this. I also considered Fred Hetchinger's character as well. He's the second cadet that got killed because like he was in those there was like a series of movies, horror movies a few years back, like Goosebumps or something like that he was in. He was kind of a dink there. There's like an Amy Adams like thriller that he's in, and he's like the bad guy there. Spoiler on that. So like I thought, oh, they're gonna do this character again. I actually thought about Captain Hitchcock.
He was the guy who was competing with Poe for Leah's love, right?
Yeah, he jumped him. Yeah, the one. Yes, that is exactly what it is. The guy who jumped him. I thought it was Captain Hitchcock. So the guy who went and retrieved Christian Bale at the start of things. I never thought it was the guy who plays Peter Pettigrew, the superintendent. It was never him. But like, so I had a lot of people like, in the course of it all that were on my radar. And
so your head was spinning the whole time then.
Yeah, because Wesley, I mean, like seriously, other than Poe, like yes, I understand your point on the doctor, and he did cross my mind multiple times in the course of all this. But then, like, when he throws kids in the mix, it's like, I don't know. Poe would have been so friggin' obvious. It would have been so, like you said, it would have been so frustrating. We would have come on here and we would have ripped it if it was him from the jump. But like with Landor, like I'm watching this, and I'm like, there's no, like, you don't have a lead here. There's not a single person who's like a strong lead other than kind of Poe. Like I see your point about the doctor, but still there was enough misdirection and not enough leading to him that I'm like, who the fuck is this? Like, what am I missing? And being frustrated the whole time. And then like the entire time, there's a reason there was no fucking evidence pointing to anybody else, because it wasn't anybody else. It was the one person who was controlling the evidence. It's crazy.
And it was amazing too. Like we can get into this and maybe what aged the worst, but it was a perfect series of events that happened for Landor to kind of carry out his plan. That he couldn't, like I'm not sure that anything could have aligned more perfectly than that.
Nope.
But no, so I'm with you on that. But I was mostly zeroed in on the Marquis family.
Sure.
What do you think is going to age the best from this?
Well, Christian Bale's performance. I mean, we've talked about it before, how great an actor he is. I mean, of our generation, he's in the conversation no less than at least that he's like the best actor of our generation, because like he's so dynamic. And I mean, like you have Batman, you have The Fighter, you have American Psycho. Those are the first three that I always think of with him. And it's like such a bizarre range, and he pulls them all off. And then he goes and takes this on, and it seems like a casual role he could probably just take, like, I probably just got a couple mil for it. That's his quote. And he's just like, whatever. And goes and kicks ass and doesn't say, like, he says enough, but like, it's one of her quotes.
Yeah, I think he's fine. I think he's fine in this. I think he was good. I think this is like baseline Christian Bale. I think that's what you're getting, 9 times out of 10, except you want to put him in a black and white suit with in front of a green screen for a Marvel movie. I think you're gonna get like a really good. That's not to say it was bad. I think he's just a really great actor. I agree with what you're saying, but
sure,
to me, it's Henry Mullen. I thought he was like the one that was like really went away. It was like, this guy was really good. This character was really good.
Yeah,
Benoit Blanc type, kind of an esque, maybe cut from a similar cloth, an off-brand. I don't know if I can say that. Maybe Benoit Blanc is an off-brand Edgar Allan Poe. I don't know the order of operations there. But I thought he was very interesting. The accent, the way that he carried himself, but there's this like kind of meek and meager dandy, more or less, and in this like rough and tumble,
Yeah,
army military fortress. But he still carried himself with like bravado and confidence and like kind of like this swagger around girls, and like he didn't really care that he knew that he was like, I don't know, maybe for lack of a better term, like a beta, like among
sure.
everyone else,
Yep, 100%.
which
And
made him an alpha.
yeah, you're right. So and we've talked about this many times when we talk about what age the worst and what age the best. Sometimes we're talking in like parallel lanes because it can mean a couple different things. When I say Bale's performance, I mean like when you watch this again, his performance is not going to sour at all. Like he does, like you said, he does.
Oh,
like,
sure.
that's fine if you want to say he's not like not his best thing ever. I agree. Like it's not his best thing ever, but like you watch it again, it's right there. Henry Melling is the same thing, and on top of that, this like just him in general, like I wouldn't be stunned if Netflix says like, oh, this did well, because I think it was like top 3 as we were watching. It's been out a couple of weeks, so nothing mind blowing. But if it like does well enough, and it's probably not a high budget thing, it's probably mostly just paying the actors. Like, why not try and venture down this lane again? Because Henry Molling was very interesting, was good. That could age well from this, or Henry Molling's career. I mean, I know we saw him in what's that? Oh, the Old Guard. He was the villain in the Old Guard as well. So I think he's shown, and he's very different in that role. He's a powerful dickhead in that one. So the range as an actor that he's showing too, and being a number 2, or I guess more of a supporting character in some ways than that one as the villain, because he's not at the center of it as much. Yeah, I agree with you. Henry Molling
Yeah.
more so than Edgar Allan Poe.
All right. How about simping? Edgar Allan Poe was simping hard. That's aged pretty good. A lot of people are simping these days, So was Bollinger. Bollinger was simping pretty hard. When she was sitting there playing the piano, and they're all just like gazing at her longingly from
Yeah.
behind.
Yep. Yeah, no, that was I mean, that is as bad as it gets. I mean, she was legitimately going to kill you, and you're upset that she's going to take the fall for it. Like taking the
He
fall
was
for
going to
what
do it.
landed on
Yeah.
her. She was bad. Like I don't. Okay, if you never kill a person in your life, but then you take a person who's dead and then you remove a part of their body after the fact, like 99 times out of 100, that's pretty fucked up. Like unless it's like a loved one that you knew and like that's a thing. I guess that maybe, but even then, it's still weird.
That's a pretty masterful trick there, saying that sacrifice is the ultimate form of love, right? That's a bad trick. don't
Gaslighting at
say
its
that to me.
finest.
Yeah, exactly. Simping though is just really like modern day courtship, right? Like courting. That was like the phrase back in that time, right?
You do that at a ball,
I'm
right?
courting this lovely dame.
Yeah. Well, I got another one for you. I think in general, like for anybody who watches this movie, I think the movie all around is going to age well, because that was what I was most excited about after watching it. Is like I'm now going to go and watch this again, and I'm going to be looking at this from Christian Bale's perspective of he's the killer, and no one else
Yeah.
knows that, and he is trying to find. He said it himself in the course, but like if you wait long enough, the killer is going to expose him or herself. I want to see like if he does that in any way, and how he's like what he's looking for throughout the entirety of it, because that's all he's doing is who's going to take the fall for me. Like I need to watch it from that lens.
Oh, I forgot about that line. That's the big giveaway, right? That kind of ties itself in. Kind of that's his revealing them.
Yeah.
So I like that. That's really good. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
You
What do you think is going to age the worst?
Well, I mean, as much as I say like the movie in general is going to age worse, I think like watching this as a mystery, viewing it as that after like the first time is going to age poorly, because I'm always probably going to look. I would be willing to bet I'm always going to view this from the standpoint of he is the killer. I know this, and I want to see like what are all the pieces that are moving in from that. It's not necessarily a bad thing, because it makes it rewatchable for at least a second time. But I think as a mystery, that's like any other mystery kind of.
Yeah. I'm with you there. But this one offers, like you said, that rewatchability, almost like Fight Club, and you watch it from a different perspective there. How about First Dates at Cemeteries?
It's a good call about the Fight Club, by the way. But yeah, that's I gotta imagine who the fuck does that. I mean, that's perfect for Edgar Allan Poe, but like, who does that?
Yeah, right. And a chick who's secretly into satanic worshiping shit.
Yeah.
Who knows? You really hit the jackpot there. You didn't even know it. She's like, yes,
This is
this like
true.
prim and proper girl.
This is very
Yeah.
true. Yeah, it's maybe we
Um,
should do more of them.
right. Maybe. How
Maybe.
about decoding the message or penmanship overall from a ripped piece of paper of a dead man's hand? And then being
Yeah,
able to extrapolate all that, like that might be one of the more rewatchable scenes now that I think about it. Because as crazy as it is, it was cool to kind of see them uh kind of leapfrog off of their minds, kickflip off their each other's thoughts, and
yeah,
kind of like get to their conclusion. But that's so fucking crazy that they're able to do that. Like,
yeah. It was kind of a bananas thing to go and pull that, but it was just like such a they it was good enough that and surprising enough of a reveal that it was like okay, like I can move past it. Like I didn't really think it over too much. But yeah, like is it the best thing ever? Like is it like I don't know. Like it's I will say this. I don't think that Landor like I believe that Landor wouldn't care necessarily too much about that. That I can get behind at
yeah,
least.
yeah, it's so that's a little interesting. And then also the whole series of events, right? That unfold perfectly where he is trying to seek vengeance for the people who raped his daughter
Mhm.
after leaving the military ball there, right? That just so happens to be how it coincides with someone looking for a heart so that they can stave off whatever like health infection that they're having right now for their daughter.
Yeah.
And while that's happening within the same, I don't know, 30-mile radius, like what are the odds of all those series of events happening? Like that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, in this, actually, you know what? I hear you on that front, there's like an unanswerable question that's like a few things that are related to this. So I think I'm going to save more thoughts for that. But I think that you raise a fair point.
My last one here, and this is really my winner, is teasing all the satanic cult stuff, as well as like the witch hunting stuff with Jean Pepe, which is just a
Hmm.
great name. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I've been ruined by True Detective season one, and then every time we get something close to like satanic cult stuff, we're talking about this with The Watcher on Netflix,
Hmm.
this or like like I can't get my fix now, and it
Yep.
gets so close. Like that's so interesting. Like I want to know why the great grandfather of a witch hunter and like why they know, and it's like all just accepted that you can like eat the blood of a virgin heart or a hanged man's heart or something like that,
Hmm.
and achieve immortality. Very intriguing stuff. And again, like I want a whole off series of Jean Pepe,
Yeah.
just a Jean Pepe fireside chats. Just open up the book and regale me with stories of yesteryear.
That would be actually very interesting too, if you did something with just that character in general. Yeah, I mean that I think there are opportunities here. I mean, this is small scale. I mean, look, it's not getting crazy raving reviews from critics, it's not getting crazy raving reviews from
Right.
the
No,
audience. So it
there's no
probably
spin-offs or
yeah,
anything. Yeah.
probably not. But I tell you what, like I'm with you. Like if you did something with this John Pepe character, or more so Edgar Allan Poe, and it's Melling, I would be interested in delving into that. And as I told you before the show, if anybody's like Wes, and like yeah, you like watching the documentary stuff, like I find obviously that stuff is very interesting and very mind blowing. But if you want to see it in like a fictional form or more just like as a show, Devil in Ohio is definitely something worth looking into. It's an 8 episode limited
Yes.
series on Netflix, worth checking out. If you like thrillers and stuff like that, or you know someone who likes that kind of stuff, it's interesting. It's frustrating as fuck. I'll tell you that. It is frustrating,
Yeah.
but it's interesting for sure with that kind of stuff.
Okay.
All right.
Unanswerable questions. Who would you rather have solving your murder mystery? Edgar Allan Poe or Benoit Blanc?
Oh, come on. I like Edgar Allan Poe in this, and I thought he did a really good job with that one detail. That was very interesting. But I mean, he doesn't have that. There's no way he puts. I feel like there's no way he puts it together without that bit of information that he got from the woman that worked, the barmaid. No way.
Well, it's fact finding. That's a sign of a good detective, getting information from people that you need. It's not
Sure.
just reading between the lines and solving clues and stuff like that. I'm just saying
Mhm.
that was Edgar Allan Poe's first, in theory, first murder solving. He solved a pretty good job.
That's
You know,
fair. I
Benoit
mean,
Blanc is a world-class murder mystery solver, detective. That's the term, murder mystery solver.
that's
This
exactly
isn't an
what it is.
escape room.
Put it on a business card. That's what I want you to
Yeah,
introduce me as going forward. Murder mystery solver for hire. Doesn't rhyme, but it
there
works.
it is. That's
Yeah.
the one there. Although now that I'm talking about Benoit Blanc, if he is a career murder mystery solver, maybe that's the guy that I want,
Well, you know what though?
not
In
the
fairness,
rookie.
I agree with you. Like, so yes, I want Benoit Blanc, but I've not seen what Benoit Blanc looked like at the beginning, and I don't know what Edgar Allan Poe looked like when he was in his prime, like Benoit Blanc is, as we've seen him. So I think this is
Mhm.
truly an unanswerable question, Wes.
All right, this one is very answerable. I'm just an idiot, but this was like a high moment for me. You know, the U.S. Military Academy, West Point, is
Yeah.
located on the banks of the Hudson River, right? North, it's like it's what's the word? What's the phrase that I'm looking for? Westchester County. It's like north of New
Oh,
York, but it's like
upstate New York,
lower Manhattan. It's not upstate though.
Hudson Valley,
Yeah, I guess
Hudson River
so, but
Valley.
it's not upstate. I don't know, but I whatever the case was, why is it located there? That seems like an odd place to put a military academy. I feel like all of these are strategically built to be like war blockades, defensive blockades, maybe around ports. I'm just wondering why West Point.
It's a great question. I mean, the only thing I could chalk it up to is it's in the 1800s when it was founded. Like it was, I'm pretty sure because Lauren was like blown away by it being founded when it was for some reason. But she looked at it. I think it was like 1802 or 1803, something like that when it was founded. But Thomas Jefferson instructed it to be built or whatever it was or formed. So I mean, I know New York's still a big thing now, but New York was like an even bigger thing back then because it's just you didn't have all this other shit. So because wasn't New York the original capital of the United States? Am I remember that correctly?
I think Philadelphia might have been for a while, but it
Was
was certainly the largest commerce area. Um, back when it was New Amsterdam when the Dutch owned it. But
okay, yeah, it
I get
was.
it. It flows upwards of New York and Manhattan. Like I get that, but I just wonder why there. Like that seems very back. Like if there was to be an attack from the east, I'm not sure how long it would take people from the military academy in West Point to get there.
I'm sorry, I'm so fixated on the capital thing because I think it was New York and Philadelphia before DC. But yeah, no, it is
Oh,
it
okay.
is
Oh,
it,
nice.
it,
There we
it
go.
is an odd
Okay,
location.
okay.
Yeah, I'm not entirely certain on it, but so if
I'm
you're
sure there's
listening,
a strategic reason that we're just like can't look up or don't have the time to do right
I back then probably, but right now, no, there's probably no real reason. But two things: one, if you're listening to us, let us know right now we're at Change My Mind Pod, but to be TBD on what our
now.
rebranding title is going to
So
be on
don't let
Twitter.
us know. Yeah.
Yeah, at some point, let us know what the original capitals of the U.S. were before DC. But also, we played against our Army in I think it was only a freshman. It was the only year that we played Army. Those dudes, like, okay,
Hmm.
so we had the smallest team in the Big Ten for sure. But like, I have a lot of big teammates, as you're going to learn in a few over the next few months. But
Oh, nice.
I had some big teammates, and we were small in the Big Ten. We played Army. Those guys were mooses. Like every single one of them
Of
was
course.
just like a mammoth. It was insane.
Yeah, that's not surprising at all. They're building machines over there.
Sure. I mean, like, I just think back on it, and it's like of all the guys that were like the biggest team that we played across the board had to be Army, no question about it. But
Did they
anyways,
mash against you?
I don't, I just definitely didn't face them. I feel like they definitely beat us. I mean, I don't know for a fact, but I'd be willing to bet that they beat us. Um, yeah, I don't know if they mashed though, but I can't tell you that. But anyways, you know what? That's a story to bring up later down the line. Like, when you meet the guys, because someone will
Okay.
remember. Anyways, unanswerable questions for me. At what point? Because Landor said he was going to turn himself into Poe. At what point do you think that Landor was going to turn himself in to Edgar
No,
Allan
I
Poe?
don't think it was going to.
Okay, because that's my next
Yeah.
question. What, like, I guess it's kind of the same thing. Would he ever have turned himself in? Because I just think that he's saying it now in hindsight, but it's like there was never really an opportunity to do it. Like, how are you going to do it other than accepting the punishment?
Yeah, I think he was just maybe he wrote a letter or something like that. Like after he was like graduated, or I don't know, but like I
Maybe.
don't see
Yeah.
it.
That would have been
I don't
interesting.
see it happening.
Yeah. Like, he got caught. Like, you got caught red-handed, and that's what it is. And
Yeah.
I still can't believe like the character was like so upset over them being like, they cut out somebody else's heart. Like, it's right up there with murder. Like, let's be honest here.
That's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, this is as bad as it gets. Now, the last one is more, I guess, of a me issue, but I'm curious if you can offer me any advice. Why do I think military officers should have some semblance of detective capabilities?
You would think so, but maybe they're just so used to following orders that they're not used to like seeing
Fair point.
patterns and stuff. Like I don't know. That's
Yeah.
that's sweeping with a very broad brush, or painting with a very broad brush there.
Yeah, we
But
both are.
you would think there would be some sort of crossover between that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just figure with these guys, they're the decision makers. Like, I understand, like they're still taking orders, up the chain and everything, but it just seems odd. Like, I feel like they'd have somewhat of a brain. Like, I mean, I'm not saying like you're like an idiot if you can't solve this mystery, but it's just like we couldn't solve it. But like, I don't know, just seemed odd. The Hitchcock guy was a real dick, is what it comes down to. And like that was
Yeah.
one
Oh
reason why I
yeah.
really asked that question, because like, do you
Yeah.
have
The
a brain?
mutton
Like,
chops too. That's what aged the
yes.
best. The mutton chops were pretty good.
Do mutton chops automatically make you a dickhead?
I think so.
Okay, there we
Yeah.
go.
No, I think that's answered. Here's kind of like an unanswerable, or like a scenario here that I want to paint to you. So
Oh,
Landor killed General Fry, right? Cadet Fry, right?
yep,
Leroy
yep,
Fry.
yes.
But then figures out that that the body's heart has been harvested.
Mm-hmm.
So when he kills Bollinger, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember this correctly.
Yes,
He
yeah,
kills
yeah.
Bollinger.
Mm-hmm.
He has to cut his heart out to make the murder match what he just found. So imagine that you're Landor and you're like, man, I gotta cut out this guy's heart now, like just to cover
Yeah.
this up, like the domino effect of what you're trying to do just to cover up your own murder, and the extent of what you're willing to do to make sure that you don't get caught.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
What's is there a question in there?
It's not a question. It's more just
Okay.
a scenario. Just
Yeah.
like imagining being like, at that point, you're like, oh man, like, is this what I'm going to have to do now to continue covering this up?
We'll take it a step further. In between those two murders that he did, Wes, he had to kill a cow, and I think it was a chicken, and
That's
cut out
right.
their
Yeah,
hearts too.
yeah.
Yeah, and his whole thing too was like, do you think it's like, they asked him to Hitchcock's point? I'll give him this. He was like, it's the same person doing those two things, and Landor was like, are you kidding me? Like, you think it's the same person that did both these things? Like, come on.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, he's not. You're not entirely wrong, Landor, because someone else cut out the heart, but the murders, Hitchcock's actually
Yeah.
right. So I should retract my statement, because he was onto something there. Fuck.
He was onto it. Yeah.
Wow. I didn't see that
Yeah.
coming. Jeez.
Best performance by a side character here. There's one option here, but I'm going to do an honorable mention for Julia Marquis and her wooden teeth. She was just
nuts.
whistling through them the whole time. She was very striking, and I'm not sure if in a positive way, but like always like just grabbed my attention on screen.
Yeah.
She was very maybe off-putting.
Yes, she was
I didn't appreciate her presence.
I agree. There was a couple screws loose, and obviously you see at the end, like, that's very much the case. I
Yeah.
do have an honorable mention, but we agree on who who gets the best performance by a side character here. My honorable mention is Cadet Randolph Ballinger, who you're just talking about, the second guy to get murdered by Landor, played by Fred Hetchinger. I was frustrated when I saw this character, because I'm like, fuck, like, this guy's going to get cast as the killer again, and they play it up like he absolutely could be. And I really appreciate the misdirection that there was, because this is a guy who can just get pigeonholed into that kind of a situation because of the roles that I've seen him in. Now, I know it's not always going to be the case, so that's good, but he plays a really good, like, asshole. He's very good at that. But in the end, we agree, best performance by a side character is Robert Duvall's Jean Pepe. He was awesome as this expert professor on witchcraft and everything. Really enjoyed it. And like you said, like, you didn't even realize that it was Robert Duvall in that moment. Obviously, he's older, and I think he had mutton chops too, so maybe not a
Yeah,
guarantee
yeah.
that you're a dickhead. But he was. I really enjoyed his two. I think he only had like 2 scenes in this, right?
Yeah, but he's awesome. And you got a guy like Jean Pepe, and just like his whole backstory. He doesn't have to even say a word. Like you just give me like what his occupation was. Like this guy's a
Yeah.
G.
Yep.
Like, I'm here for it.
Agreed.
This is
100%.
Who Lost the Movie. This is a late edition. How about Candlelights?
What do
Like
you mean?
how do more places not burn down? Like everything is lit by candles. You go into the bar, like the bar where Patsy was and where
Sure.
they first Poe and Landor first meet. The whole place is lit up by candles. Great mood lighting, by the way. Great place for a bar. Like it's awesome.
Sure.
But you're drunk, you're getting knocked around as a tight quarters. Like all you gotta do is just one elbow. The whole place burst up in flames as we saw at the very end. I mean,
100%.
I don't know how. Is this how the Great Chicago Fire happened?
I think it was a cow in a barn. That's how it happened. That's like the
That could
old
have
wives'
been.
tale. But I see your point. Like because now when I think about any place that has like candles, like the library restaurant in Portsmouth, obviously a place I hold near and dear to my heart. Like they
Sure.
have a bunch of candles and stuff there, but they're all fake candles. So I was thinking about there's another place up
Yep.
here that we go to that like I think has like some candle lights, fake candles, like all of it's electronic stuff. So yeah, and they're all like they have like bars in those restaurants. So I agree with you. Like that's a great point. But I don't know how they
A
lost the
lot
movie.
insurance liability, man. You can't have that shit just lighting around.
They did not have that in the 1830s, I don't think. But anyways, the candidates that we have here, and I think they're all on a pretty similar level here. Maybe one distinct winner, but we have the Superintendent Thayer, who of course is Peter Pettigrew, the same actor there. I'm blanking on his name. Captain Hitchcock. These are the Academy officers. I mean, they're losing guys. They don't actually get their man in the end. They kind of look
Yeah.
like buffoons in some ways throughout the course of it all. We have Augustus Landor, who obviously lost his daughter. And as much as Edgar Allan Poe lets him off, like he doesn't fully get away with it. And of course, whenever you're dealing with a thing like this, it's not fully going to give you the piece that you want at the end. And then I think the answer for me, Wes, and obviously I'll let you have the floor. The Marquis family is probably going to get my vote.
Yeah, the Marquis family, as I feel like, is the clear-cut winner here. Although I like the nomination of Thayer and Captain Hitchcock there, because among them, all of what you said, like also what was going on underneath their nose was a satanic cult ritual that was going on. So like
Very true.
they had no idea about it.
By their doctor.
And with their doctor, right? Yeah, exactly. The good doctor. We've relieved a good doctor of his services. So that's a pretty incompetent duo there.
Yeah.
But it's the Marquis family. They take it. The whole family goes down.
Yeah. Two bite the dust. The doctor's out of a job. Probably never gonna. You know what? Back then, I bet you people aren't as like thorough on their background checks. I bet you the doctor figured out a situation. But yes, he lost his kids in the end.
Yeah, you go 3-4 towns over, maybe a state over. You start a whole new life with a new name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
I bet
sure.
you know what? I bet you even if you still went to North Adams now in Massachusetts, they're not going to do a crazy background check. People who've been there know what I'm talking about. But anyways, Wes, who do you have
Heyo.
for who won this movie?
It's Harry Melling. It's Edgar Allan Poe. He's like not really the star of this movie, but he kind of is. He's like the star by a side character.
Yep.
But really, really strong role again, like maybe an off-brand Benoit Blanc, that type of presence throughout, where he has that southern charm and like everything. Like you just kind of hang on every word he says because of his accent. And again, he plays that dandy, wordsmith, charming guy very well. But also has some really good depth, obviously, as a poet and as Edgar Allan Poe would. And you see some of those cool moments there. But you imagine Edgar Allan Poe through learning about him in school and reading his work to be like this really haunted guy, but to see him kind of jovial and full of life, I thought was a really cool interpretation of it.
Yeah, but
just
also
kind
still,
of like embracing death.
Yeah, still like he's full of life, like you said, but he's still got those dark twists to him that are quite odd. And like would, like we said, would love to see Netflix do a little more of this. Probably not going to happen, But yes, I
Yeah.
agree. Like Christian Bale gets like the honorable mention because he did a good job. Basically, he just showed I can show up and like I'm going to give an awesome performance. But Harry Melling is the big winner here because I only know him as playing it's Dudley, right? Dursley that he plays, and then
Yeah.
he's the villain in The Old Guard. I don't really know if I've seen him in anything else, but he did a good job in both of those roles, and now he's in this and really like I don't know if I'd say he stole the show from me because I love Christian Bale's character, but you could argue that he stole the show, did an outstanding job. Give me more of him and more shit. And I mean, doesn't matter what role it is because he can play a litany of different things. He's shown that over the course of his career now. So yeah, definitely a big win for Harry Melling.
All right. I love it. That wraps up the exit survey for the Pale Blue Eye. Nice squeaky fart there to mark it. First review of the year of 2023. 85 for Nick, 83 for me. Let's take it over now to the Discharge Depot.
Choo choo bitches.
I hadn't heard that one yet. Oh my god, I hadn't heard that. That's amazing. I missed that one.
That's a good one there. Yeah, so now my wife can finally, stop hearing me doing a horrible attempt at a train, choo-choo train leaving. So, what do we got discharging from the depot this week, Nick? What'd you do?
I feel like there's another thing that I'm missing in terms of what I've watched recently. Maybe I'm just losing my mind. I don't know. But we did watch Emily the Criminal on Netflix. This is starring Aubrey Plaza and Theo Rossi. Solid. Like it was like I don't think this isn't a thriller, but it's like definitely a lot, like definitely anxiety inducing. And basically the premise is that Aubrey Plaza is this like down on her luck girl from New Jersey who's living in, I believe, California. She gets in on this like credit card scheme, and then like it kind of escalates to this level that gets out of control and everything. So, and she deals through she tries to go legit in a bunch of different ways, which is like you can see how a person like her would fall down this path. And then Theo Rossi who is from Luke Cage, Sons of Anarchy, Shades in Luke Cage. I don't know if you remember that character, but anyways,
no,
you'll recognize him as soon as you see him. You'll recognize him.
I'd probably recognize him. Yeah,
good actor. I like his stuff. And this is it's like a solid movie, like just a good, like it's an hour and a half ish or something like that. So a good like Friday night trying to find an interesting thing. I'd recommend this.
All right, I've just been watching NFL football. Made a beef stew this weekend.
Oh,
lovely beef stew. It's been snowing all day down here, so all day yesterday and today. Flurries, not a lot of accumulation. I think I said that right. But perfect day to break out the crock pot.
Oh,
buy a couple pounds of beef, chop it up, get a mirepoix of vegetables in there, lovely stew. Get some Pillsbury Grands there.
Okay,
worked out great.
Look at you.
Beef stew, highly recommend it for the winter time.
Well, when you wonder who if we ever do a DSG chef rankings, I think we know which of the CMM boys is going to be on the higher end of the list and which one's going to be on the lower end.
Dude, we had a crazy night. This doesn't always happen. I made the beef stew. Great. Awesome. Then the wife made homemade fudge chocolate cake yellow cake with chocolate fudge frosting.
Wow.
Yeah, right. Just like just on a Sunday.
Jeez, have a night.
I'm trying to get gains. I'm bulking up for the winter so I can cut down.
You're both in bulking season, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There you go. All right, so I think it is time for This Week in Dork now, right? This Week in the DSG, excuse me. What the fuck?
Yes. Yes. This week in the DSG, hashtag Dork Paul Rudd movies. That sounds very interesting, right up my alley.
That is very much up your alley. I did not happen to catch what Mac and Goo was doing next. I know they're doing a dump the day that this audio drops, so I'm not sure outside of that.
I think they did a dump. Yeah, they just recorded it earlier. I think I saw it on YouTube.
Yeah, looks like they did a re-release
about James Gunn and.
They have the Mac and Groovy Vault that they just did recently. Yeah, I still got to listen to that.
Oh yeah, that too.
Is that episode 400? Wow, that's their 400th episode.
400 episodes. Yeah, good for the Groovy guys.
Jesus. Then PCP, they are
Still
protesting.
protesting.
I mean,
Mm.
we're the only ones acknowledging this protest. So I don't.
I know. Maybe we should stop.
Maybe we should. TLDR, we are talking. Doc's got an AWA book. I have an image book. Excited to talk about both of those. Then I've heard it both ways. Season 5, episode 10. I believe we said that last week, but I double checked. They haven't done that. At least it's not on their audio channel yet. So more psych talk from them as always. And then for the streamers, you can find Doc at Backcracker on Twitch, Shime at Shime Time, and then Dork does all their video game playing over on the #Dork YouTube page.
Awesome. Yeah. And for next week, very fun
Yeah.
episode lined up.
Yes.
We are doing a Harry Potter character tier rankings. This is coming from the mouth of the Fry Guy himself. I never thought it would happen, but I'm excited for it nonetheless. So we'll be, I think I found a couple good options on Tier Maker. I'll send them to you a little later in the week and we can choose. So there's some funny ones. There's some, your basic generic S, A, B, C, D ones, but I think there's some more unique, funny titles that we can play around with.
Good.
So I'll send that your way. But yeah, nevertheless, same bat time, same bat place as always. And smash that like button on YouTube, CMM Podcast, because that's all we're doing from here on out. So maybe not the same bat place, but always the same bat time.
Can I end the broadcast?
Yeah, do it.